In the discourse named Alagadupama Sutra, to be found in the Majjhima Nikaya of Buddha Jayanti Tripitaka, Volume 1, page 324, Buddha compared the doctrine he taught for 45 years to a boat that can be used for crossing over. And also, he compared his doctrine to a poisonous serpent to be caught in the proper way. Both these similes explain the real nature of the Buddha's teaching. His teaching has a utility value when compared to the first simile, the boat to cross. It has to be used, not to be hauled on to, not to be grabbed with devotion. It is only a means to an end, not an end itself. The end of his doctrine is enlightenment, the supreme bliss of enlightenment. That state of supreme bliss is to be found not outside us, not in a heaven above us, not in the kingdom of God. Even Jesus Christ said in the Bible that kingdom of God is nowhere else but within oneself. It means Jesus Christ too referred to the supreme bliss of Nirvana to be realized within oneself. And Buddha taught how to realize it through his preaching, through his doctrine, that we refer to as Buddhism. He compared it to a boat because one has to cross over or go beyond the torrent of the thinking process, the flood of thoughts, incessantly flowing through our mind, covering the supreme bliss of Nirvana. He, in his first sermon, referred to the bliss of enlightenment as dukkha nirodha, meaning, in a literal sense, the cessation of suffering or extinction of suffering. Suffering he referred to as dukkha. The word dukkha used by the Buddha has a wider meaning than suffering, but suffering is also included in that meaning. He referred to our suffering as our own thinking. Thinking is the main source of our suffering. We suffer because of our thoughts. That means our suffering is generated or created by our thoughts. Therefore, if thinking is suffering, end of suffering means the end of thinking. Thinking is compared to a torrential flood in a sutra called Auga Sutra. Auga means a flood, a stream, strong stream. In that discourse, when a deity asked the Buddha how he crossed over the stream of thoughts, the torrential flood of thoughts, he said, Appatittam anavya. I did not keep standing. That means it can't be said that I did nothing. Nor did I struggle to cross over. That's the middle path. That means doing nothing, but he was aware of the flood of thoughts. Observing our thought process, the flood of thought, flowing of thought, is the only way to enlightenment. By going beyond that stream of thoughts. In fact, going beyond means the cessation of the stream of thought. Thought ceases when the causes for thoughts, causes for thinking cease. According to Buddha's findings, we think of things that we like, we think of things that we dislike, we think of things that we are ignorant of. And therefore, he referred to the three main causes of thinking as raga, dosa, moha in his language. Raga means attachment, based on our likes. Attachment means we like something and we get attached to it. Dosa means dislike, resentment of things that we dislike. Moha means ignorance. It is through illusion of the reality that we start thinking. Enlightenment means the disappearance of ignorance. Ignorance is compared to, metaphorically, darkness. The disappearance of ignorance means the disappearance of the mental darkness. Therefore, enlightenment is referred to as illumination of the mind. Enlightenment, the word itself. For that, in the Alagattama Sutra, we had to cross the flood of thoughts. And his doctrine should be used as a boat, not to carry on the soldiers. We had to use it. And once we cross over that flood, once we reach the land of Nirvana, the bliss of Nirvana, supreme bliss, we have to give up that boat too. That means we should not get attached to even Buddha's doctrine. Nor should we get attached even to the Buddha. Enlightenment means cessation of all attachments. That is why it is called ragakaya. When there is no attachment, cessation of attachment means cessation of resentment also. We get attached to things that we like and we resent things that we dislike. We dislike means things that are not in the way that we like. Therefore, disliking is based on liking. That means resentment is based on attachment. If you like nothing, we dislike nothing. That means we can accept things as they are. We can accept things as they are once we realize their true nature. The basic true nature of everything that we can be aware of in this world is referred to by the Buddha as Tilakkhana, the triple nature meaning. Triple nature of things. Everything in this universe may be a galaxy, may be a sun or star, or a moon, or any planet, or even the earth, or even an atom or a subatomic particle. Everything is energetic, that means dynamic. Everything in this universe is created by the universal energy. Energy is not a thing but a dynamism. Dynamism means creativity. Dynamic means everything is changing every moment. That is why Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher who lived in the 5th century BC, said, the same river cannot be crossed twice, or stepped into twice. That means once we step into the river, and before we step into for the second time, it flows down. Because everything in this universe is in a flux, changing every moment. It is this constant change that the Buddha referred to as dukkha. Anityata Buddha referred to as the universal, is the universal dynamism. Universal dynamism is nothing but the universal energy. Energy is all creative, therefore it gets transformed every moment. Dukkhata means that transformation of energy. Then he referred to the third aspect of everything in the universe. Nothing can retain a permanent identity. If the same river cannot be crossed for the second time, that means even if we touch our body, when we touch for the second time, it has got change. That means we can't hold on to anything. Nor can we throw away anything. That means there is nothing to be attached and there is nothing to resent. Everything instant, dynamic, changing. Once this is realized, you get enlightened. That means cessation of attachment, resentment and ignorance that lead to thinking, and that is enlightenment, and that is the way to cross over the flood of thinking. And non-thinking mind, non-feeling mind is the enlightened supreme bliss that the Buddha realized. And he referred to that bliss of enlightenment or the Nirvana as sunyata in Pali, in his language, meaning voidness, emptiness. Emptiness is the emptiness of the mind. That means removing all its content. Our mind contains nothing but our thoughts and feelings. When the mind is free of thoughts, thinking and feeling, it becomes empty of thoughts and feelings. It is that emptiness, the supreme bliss, that one can realize. In the Nibbana Sukha Sutta that we get in the Tripitaka, it is said, supreme bliss is nothing but non-thinking, non-feeling. There is nothing to feel in Nirvana, there is nothing to think of in Nirvana. It is emptiness. To reach this state of mind, Buddha preached the way for 45 years. And he said, we have to be very careful about his teaching. If we misuse them, instead of getting enlightened, we may even go to hell. His doctrine is very dangerous, like a poisonous serpent. And Alaga Dupama Sutra means, Alaga means the serpent, Upama means the simile. Serpent, simile, discourse. He compared his doctrine to a serpent because if you misuse his doctrine, instead of realizing the supreme bliss, we may end up in a hell. Not only after death, but even before death. That means any attachment, and even attachment to the Buddha or his doctrine, or the practice taught by the Buddha, the technique taught by the Buddha, we can never get enlightened. But the use of his doctrine, his teaching, his technique can be conducive to enlightenment if you use it properly. That means getting attached to practices can be harmful. Even charity or donations, doing too much, practicing too much, even meditating can be harmful, may bear no results. In the Susima Sutta commentary, it is said, the supreme bliss of Nirvana is not the result of meditation. That means meditation can bring tranquility to the mind, clarity to the mind. That does not mean such a mind is enlightened. But it also is a means of training our mind to be enlightened. To be enlightened means not to be attached to anything. Not to be attached to anything means the ability to accept things as they are. Because when there is no attachment, there is no resentment. And there is no ignorance, because we can realize detachment from attachment and detachment from resentment only when we realize things as they are. As I mentioned earlier, the basic reality of every item in the universe is they are dynamic, energetic, and they are in a constant state of transformation, and they can retain any identity to be attached to or to get rid of. They are always changing. Once this is realized, one gets really enlightened. Although I mentioned that even attachment to Buddha or his doctrine can be harmful, it also becomes the stepping step for attaining the supreme bliss of Nirvana. Having faith in the Buddha, that is called Saddha. Getting inspired by the Buddha, studying his doctrine, what he taught, can be useful in the path to enlightenment, but not for enlightenment. Enlightenment is at the end of the path. In the path, we may do certain practices, but gradually practices become natural. We come to a stage we do nothing, things happen. And even enlightenment is not a thing that we can do. In the Satya-Nibbana Sutta, Buddha said, 4 qualities of the supreme bliss of Nirvana attained by enlightenment. In his language, he says that supreme bliss is unborn. It is our intrinsic original nature of our mind, when it is free of all its content, when it is empty. Ajata means that state is not born, therefore there is no decay and death. Abhuta means that is not an incident, a manifestation. Because it is there, it is the eternal, permanent truth, reality. Akata, it can be done with an effort. Asankata, it cannot be composed using things that are available. And to reach that, we had to use the real spirit of the doctrine taught by the Buddha. He referred, as I mentioned earlier, he compared his doctrine to a poisonous serpent, and if you want to catch the serpent, you have to catch him by his head, so that it cannot sting you, harm you. If you hold him, catch him by his tail, he will turn back and bite you. If you hold him by his body, he will turn back and will bite you. And you may end in death, stung by a poisonous serpent. And these two similes shows clearly one should not get attached to the Buddha's teaching or the Buddha himself, because any attachment can be harmful to enlightenment. That is why you say, like a boat, use it for crossing over, but don't hold on to it and don't carry it on your shoulders. Only use it. Then, if you want to get out of his teaching, get the very spirit of his teaching by head, catching the serpent by the head, not by the tail, not by the trunk. That means the knowledge of Buddha's teaching will not be helpful, will not enlighten you. You may learn by heart all what the Buddha has taught, but you may not get enlightened. The good example is his closest disciple was called Reverend Ananda. He knew every word spoken by the Buddha. He was called the treasurer of the Buddha's teaching. He knew everything taught by the Buddha, but he was not enlightened until the Buddha passed away, because he was attached with Buddha and his doctrine. He got enlightened only 3 months after Buddha's passing away, when he was invited to the first council of Buddha's teachings, and he was asked to get enlightened to join the council, because only the enlightened disciples of the Buddha got round to discuss and lay down the pure teaching of the Buddha. By taking Reverend Ananda as an example, we can get the idea clearly what the Alagaddupa Sutta discourse says. Use the Buddha's teaching as a boat to cross over. And don't onto his tail or trunk. Hold the serpent, catch the serpent by his head. That means get the real spirit of what Buddha taught. That means do not get only the verbal meaning of the words you use, but we have to find out the implied meaning of his teaching. That is why Buddha said a number of occasions. We get in a sutta called Sugata Vinaya Sutta, the discipline of all Buddhas. Every Buddha preaches brahmacharya, a sublime behavior for enlightenment. And that sublime behavior is teaching Sattang Sabhyanjana. Preachings contain verbal meanings, express meaning as well as implied meaning. What is important for enlightenment is to find out the implied meaning of the Buddha's teaching. That is why in the Alagadhyupa Sutta, Buddha advised to hold the serpent or catch the serpent by the serpent's head. Similarly, if you are to make use of the Buddha's doctrine, you have to go deep into the implied meaning of the words used by the Buddha. That one can realize only through one's own insight, through meditation. Meditation means crossing over the flood of thoughts, because meditation is cessation of thinking. In meditation, in deep meditation, in trance, you are not thinking, you become aware. Sensory awareness is there in your trances, in meditation, but what you become aware of, you don't think of. In the Bhaya Sutta, when an ascetic asked the Buddha shortcut to Nirvana, he said, be aware of sensations. Sensation of sense organs. But don't think of it. Think of what you become aware. That means there should be awareness, pure awareness, without the thinking process, without thinking of them. That is referred to as crossing over in the Tarana Sutta, crossing over the flood of thought process, flood of thinking. And the Buddha's teaching has to be used only as a boat to cross over the flood of thoughts. Go beyond the thoughts means go deep into the silent mind that Krishnamurti refers to. Non-thinking mind. Silent mind means non-thinking mind. That Buddha referred to as Shunyata, empty mind. And the mind can become empty when you become really constantly aware of your own thinking process. Observing the thinking process, you find out the causes of thinking, the futility of thinking, and ultimately thinking will cease and you will get enlightened, reaching the empty mind, the original mind below our normal mind, full of thoughts and feelings.